I want to welcome everyone to this evening's debate. I also want to thank the 4 nonpartisan organizations who are sponsoring this debate: the Women of Action, Cedar Valley Activate, American Association of the University Women of Iowa, and the organization I represent, the Northern Iowa Student Government. Next, I want to extend my thanks to our 2 moderators for assisting us in conducting a fair and civil debate: Jamie Renthrow, Associate Professor of Political Science at the University of Northern Iowa, and Andy Malone, Cedar Falls City Government reporter for the Courier. Our tonight's timekeeper for the debate is Samuel Coffrin. We are grateful to the City of Cedar Falls for permitting us to host the debate in the City Council chambers, as well as to the Cedar Falls Utilities for broadcasting this debate live on Cable Channel 15. The timekeeper will apprise candidates when they have 15 seconds left of their allotted time, and a red-colored stop sign will be displayed to apprise candidates that their time has expired. Due to the limited time we have allocated for tonight's debate, I ask that all candidates do not exceed their allotted time period. As the saying goes, less is more. Should candidates go beyond their time period, the moderator and timekeeper will have the debate's sponsored permissions to interrupt him or her, move on to the next question, or rebuttal, debate, and discussion opportunity, and if necessary, penalize the candidate's time in the next time she or he is asked to respond to a question. All questions to be asked came from the residents of Cedar Falls. Sponsor representatives have been assigned to review all questions submitted by the residents of Cedar Falls and have given our moderators the questions to ask. Due to the professional background of our moderators, they have been given the privilege to modify questions for clarity's sake, should they so desire. Each of our 9 city council candidates will be allotted 90 seconds for their opening remark, 1 minute for their closing statement, and we ask they keep responses to debate questions in 60 seconds or less. With our condensed schedule, less is more. Each of our 3 mayoral candidates will be permitted to give a 2-minute introductory statement, a 1-minute closing statement, and we hope their responses to debate questions should be 60 seconds or less. And again, less is more. Should any candidate want to make a rebuttal comment, she or he will be limited to 30 seconds to make their case. Moderators have permission to stop the rebuttal commentary if they feel the issue has been sufficiently aired. Each of the 12 Cedar Falls residents seeking public office were mailed as well as emailed the debate schedule and debate protocol, as I just shared with you. Let us begin our debate with candidates from Ward 1. And in Ward 1, our introduction of candidates are Gil Schultz and Derek Payson, who will not be joining us, but again is aware that they were mailed as well as emailed the debate schedule and debate protocol. Thank you.
Well, hello. My name is Gil Schultz. Thank you for including me in this important event. I want to start with a little background about myself and my family. My wife Diane and I have lived nearly our entire lives in Cedar Falls. We've been married for 39 years and we've raised our 3 children here. I retired from John Deere after 29 years in roles of increasing responsibility. The final 6 years I was the safety manager for the John Deere Waterloo Works. Currently I do some safety consulting with some businesses, as well as I'm an adjunct professor at the University of Northern Iowa at the Industrial Tech Center, teaching manufacturing classes and safety classes as well. Through my professional and personal life, I feel I've gained skills and knowledge that set me up well to be a city council person. Those include relationship building, problem solving, and decision making. For a number of years, I've been approached to run for city council, and as I've had the passion for a long time this year, I find myself ready physically, if you will, and mentally and personally in a position to do so. I appreciate the support that I've gotten from my campaign team over the past year, and also I want to thank my wife Diane for being here in person tonight, and it's too bad that we can't have all our audiences here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. All right, let's get started with the questions that came in from the outside. During the last few years, it seems that there is an outcry that citizens haven't had enough time to weigh in on the issues or don't feel listened to. How can we do better in making community decisions and engaging the public at the earlier input stages? And what will you do to help keep the process moving while still ensuring the ample opportunities for public input?
Along the line of what I've been doing throughout the campaign, attending the North Cedar Neighborhood Association, meeting with the community Main Street, meeting with neighbors, having public forums, a place for interaction at a less of a formal level and as a social level, as well as I think we need to have more formal discussions and more time to meet with citizens. It's along the line of what we're finding with the foreign-based zoning. Many of the community members felt like they weren't informed soon enough, and at the last minute were in chambers waiting for conversations that they weren't able to have. But they were happening for years and years. So forums, communication.
Thank you. What do you believe is the unrealized value of the Cedar Falls UNI partnership? What initiatives would you encourage the city and council to pursue?
Well, eventually it's going to come up on public safety, and I met with the one of the one of the safety directors at UNI, and it's a little bit embarrassing that we have a huge lacking in the relationship between UNI and the city. It's a gem that is unmined, if you will. We need to have more cooperation between the two for lots of services, for events. We're missing out. Both sides are missing out.
On the public safety topic, the council in 2015 voted 7-0 for an updated method for delivering public safety services known as the PSO model. Now, 6 years later, is there evidence that the service model should be changed?
Is your question, is there evidence that it should be changed?
That is what the question is. Go ahead and interpret that as you will.
Okay. Well, I've learned a lot in the past year about our public safety organization, and I will tell you that the first thing that bothers me is the way that the transition or lack of transition happened. That scarred our community, and it's going to be a scar for forever. We're never going to get over that. We're never going to get those professional firefighters back. We're never going to get some of those families back. We're never going to get the same confidence back in the community that they had or they felt they had with the two services separated. That being said, we're 6 years down the road. We got to stop kicking this can down the road, and we got to come to a stop. And we'll talk more about this, but we have professionals in those positions, and they're well trained. I've done ride-alongs with, I've met with the police chief, I've met with the fire chief, I've met with PSOs.
Okay. On that, what do you feel are some of the current deficiencies in the current public safety officer model?
Probably the number one problem they have is people don't really understand what the model is. I didn't understand what the model is until I went out there and really spoke with those folks. Mark Miller is here tonight. Mark has been a great source of information for me to at least go out and start following up on those investigations and finding out for myself. There was Mr. White here at the last, I believe it was the last council meeting, that talked about the increase, almost doubling of our fire protection. And there are right now either out on a call or at the public safety building, professional firefighters in those roles. Where I want to make clear is that they're trained for that position, that if they're in the role of a police officer, they're in the role of a firefighter, that they are perfectly equipped and perfectly trained.
So the level of incivility and discord that this whole thing has created, is there anything that we can do or that you can do specifically to kind of unify the city on this issue, or to educate people on the things that you say that they don't really know so much about?
Well, as I was saying before, I believe there's one, you can't unring a bell, right? That's done. It's been 6 years. There's still hurt feelings, and I have had conversation with former professional firefighters from the city. I've had conversations with firefighters from other communities around Cedar Falls, and there's still hurt feelings and there's still misconceptions. I don't want to say, let's have a pizza party and bring everybody over, but things like that, I think community forums, open houses at the public safety office. I saw a video on social media that the firefighters produced talking about their day-to-day activities, what they're really doing, what their roles really are when they're in the PSO position, and if they're a firefighter and they're, for example, at the homecoming that I spent time with, what roles they have there.
Thank you. So I guess you've already kind of dived into it a little bit, but what would you suggest are some of the big changes that you would kind of envision going forward for the public safety officer model?
So there's, I'm still not 100%, and when I talk about positions, when I talk about the city administrator, when I talk about the public safety director, when I talk about the mayor, it's that office. I'm not pointing or talking about any individual. I really feel that we have in place a police chief and a fire chief. And they need to report to the mayor. I don't believe we need one more layer there to have that position. And you can continue to lobby for me to understand why that is, but that position, I believe, is one change that I would make. The other change is assuring that the proper training is in place. And if we look at what our firefighter ones, our firefighter twos, our folks that are EMT and paramedics, we're on the right path there with those education.
Thank you. All right, let's get off of PSOs. The downtown district, while in Ward 1, belongs to the entire city, and the downtown district depends on the entire city for its well-being. What do you see as the major issue confronting the downtown neighborhood?
Well, I believe the SMID passed, so that's good news that all the business owners down there are in support of each other, and for what we can do with the TIF and that. I believe we're missing the boat a little bit on the cooperation or the interaction between the actual city and the community downtown. Again, it is a part of the city that affects all of us throughout our town and throughout our community. It's been just amazing, the phenomenal things that they've been able to achieve down there, and often it's drives just like the free market, right? The businesses built and the people came. So it'd be nice to continue to have that support in conjunction with the city.
Thank you. The downtown district, while in Ward 1, belongs to the entire city. Oh, sorry. My apologies. The North Cedar District. Yeah, we could get it again. The North Cedar District has unique challenges and opportunities. On what topics will you spend your time in advocacy?
I've spent a good deal of time with some great people in the North Cedar area. The North Cedar Neighborhood Association is probably one of the most active neighborhood associations that I've ever been familiar with. Jim Newcomb and that group, they're involved and they know what's going on, and they know where they want to go. They know where they want to go with the streetscape. They know where they want to go with development, and they know where they want to lead that neighborhood. It's part of the embarrassing thing. I believe that North Cedar's been left behind and unappreciated for a long time. I first lived in North Cedar in the 1960s, and there has been some improvement. Actually, there's been things that have been detrimental. The floods have certainly been detrimental out there. They need to be represented with a fire station for one.
The federal COVID recovery dollars going to sewer projects might seem to not be a key tool to COVID recovery. How might dollars be better utilized to get assistance right to the businesses or residents that can have a direct impact on post-COVID economic growth?
I think it's one of those avenues that it doesn't seem like it has an impact. We are still going to have a sewer rate of, 7% over the 5-year time period that the federal government is requiring us to build up our water treatment. So that's another one of those things where communication is key for people to know they are being represented. Their pocketbook is being affected by those funds going to that. Not sure if funds going to the cable is where I want it to go, but they I hope feel rest assured that their money, the money that they could go to them, is going in all to build up that treatment center.
Thank you. Cedar Falls enjoys one of the lowest tax rates in the state and an economically diverse tax base. There is always great concern about budgets and spending. How do you differentiate between an investment and an expense? How important is it that the community understand when investments should be made versus when spending occurs?
Yeah, we're blessed with some great rates and great budget. I believe we have a budget of about $100 million. Half of that is police, fire, and street, and et cetera. And then we have that budget to work on investments and improvements. I'd like to see some investment. If you look at North Cedar, for example, should we develop a TIF for North Cedar? I spoke with the city administrator, and I spoke with Ron Gaines and Stephanie about would the North Cedar TIF, would that be of value? And really what we need is an investment in North Cedar. We need businesses to invest, and we need the city to invest. The TIF would take too long to really do anything where we need a big bang. So an area like North Cedar, where we can get businesses to go, as well as not, over-regulate those businesses. That's a fine line with FEMA and flood control, and to grow business.
So speaking of those things, do you support the resilience planning process that's been conducted for the past couple of years?
Is that a yes or no question?
Yeah, in what way do you support? Let me rephrase their question.
I don't have a good answer for that, honestly. It's a pretty complicated issue, and I certainly would love to have the opportunity to represent Ward 1 and all of Cedar Falls on the council when we continue to work on that.
Okay. There will be a racial equity task force report coming soon, but what do you envision or what do you see as the diversity and equity issues within Cedar Falls? How should the city be responding right now? If elected, how committed will you be to following the recommendations of that eventual report?
I reflect back on my childhood and growing up, and I worked a lot with people of all races and ethnic, and when 50 years ago, I had just a vision that I thought this would all be behind us, and that we were it would be, sunshine and rainbows, and it's disappointing that it's almost been a setback. I'm willing to entertain any idea that anyone has. I know I'm not supposed to say this, but my campaign chair is an African American man that I love like a brother, and I wish all those relationships were like what he and I have, and I want to work to get there.
So during elections, and I think maybe particularly right now, we tend to see campaigns focus on 2 or 3 big issues. There's a lot of PSO talk. There's maybe a lot of COVID talk. Is there something that you see as a big issue facing Cedar Falls that we're not talking about because we are talking so much about those other things?
There is not one issue. There are so many issues that they all intertwine together in some way. I mean, obviously, if you dig down to nearly every issue we have, it's going to come down to, is there the money for it? Is there the structure and the finances to support the PSO that we have, or support the separation of those two divisions of police and fire? Or is there support for the investment in North Cedar, the support for the investment in Cedar City, downtown? It's all intertwined. Financial, infrastructure, the water treatment plant, our protection, our fire and our police, our streets, our sewers. It is a complicated ball of yarn, if you will, that all cross over each other.
I mean, just to follow up on that, are there any services that you'd like to see Cedar Falls offer if elected?
Staffing at the North Cedar Fire Station.
Why?
Because I feel that if you look at what a tax rate is in North Cedar, or what it is in the southern part of town, it's the same, right? I think there's inequities that need to be addressed in services throughout the entire city, and that's being one of them.
What do you see then as the biggest issues facing Cedar Falls in the next 5 years? Is this like, does our focus need to change? Is it going to change? Or do you think it needs to?
Say that again, please.
Like, what are the biggest issues that you see coming up in the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think we've talked about a great many of them. We need to put to bed the PSO situation and come to an end with that. We need to, look at ourselves and say, are we a society with a culture that's ready to all work together with all races and all ethnics and do it openly and grow this city's culture? North Cedar, I want to see that. I want to see businesses grow. I want to see services grow out there. And that's representative just like downtown. When we as a city focused on downtown, it wasn't that downtown's in Ward 1, it was Cedar Falls. When we focus on North Cedar, it's not that it's North Cedar, it's Cedar Falls, Cedar City, the rest up to Hudson Road over to 18th, all of Ward 1. Whatever happens there happens to all of Cedar Falls.
Thank you. And more generally, we're wrapping up here. Why do you feel you are the best candidate to represent Ward 1?
Well, are we closing up? Is
That's
that
a good
literally
question,
what
right? We do have
we're
a closing
doing?
argument, too.
I want to take this opportunity to thank all those organizations, all 4 of the organizations that put this on tonight. I want to thank those that are watching on CFU 15. I want to thank those that were able to join us here today. I spent over half a century living in Cedar Falls, and I've witnessed some phenomenal successes, and there's been a few less than successful things that have happened over those years, and I really am asking for Ward 1 vote to be the voice on City Council for Ward 1. I want to continue to preserve the great things that we've done and work on those that we need to get corrected or make more successful. In the end, I want Cedar Falls to continue to be and always be the greatest city to live in anywhere. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.